It's time. I need to start on this elephant-inspired cloak for our friend who's officiating our wedding. I've got everything in this giant tub, and everything basically boils down to, well, for cutting out and getting the pattern prepped, it boils down to a roll of tape. I got two different types of scissors, paper scissors and fabric scissors. I got some chalk for fabric. It washes out and everything. I got my pattern. I will have more information in the description. I purchased this off Etsy. It was a PDF download, hence why I have like a stack to lay out and figure out. And then I have this beautiful fabric. Oh yeah, you can see it's this really dark navy-y royal blue, and it has like that shimmery flower finish. So this is our fabric. It is a rose satin jacquard in navy blue from Fabric Wholesale Direct. But I just need to get started on this because it's not the most difficult project, but I keep having it in my head that it's gonna be a pain in the ass in all of this. And I just kind of need to get it done so it's not taking up the mental space that it has been. So, my fabric. I'm gonna start with laying out the pattern and getting it cut out, and yeah, we'll go from there. So let's just cut to that.
First off, I had to lay out my pattern pieces and then get them all lined up with their markings. I had some issues with my printing just because I got a thermal printer, and that was to save on ink when printing out these large PDF patterns, but I was having issues because it wasn't printing quite to scale, and then also it got skewed when it was printing, so for whatever reason things just don't line up how they should. But I went ahead and I made some adjustments. I had to make adjustments to this pattern anyway because our officiant, his patterns, or like his size, doesn't quite line up with what the pattern's sizes are. So I made those adjustments, and then I laid out the PDF pattern with the adjustments on top of my fabric, and I was very careful with cutting it out. I have since gotten some scissors that actually work way better for this type of project, just like cutting out fabric in general. They have a better curve, so I can keep them very flat on the floor with the fabric. But for this project, I was just sort of using my current scissors and putting a lot of stuff that had weight on the fabric. I had done my adjustments in a lot of chalk because I didn't have as much paper to mark out the adjustments. So that's what you are seeing here, just me cutting out the pattern and working with my adjustments that I had to make.
Okay, we are back in my actual craft room. You're a little high up there. Okay, so we are back in my actual craft room. I have it cut out off to the side. It's off camera. And when I purchased my fabric, I also got the cone thread for my serger, which is one of the things I like about Fabric Direct, is when you click on the fabric and stuff, it shows you automatically the cones for serging. So I don't have to worry about having the right color. I can also use this on my normal domestic machine, non-serging machine, because I have like the little holder that helps you use the larger cones of thread. But I'm just going to rethread my machine real quick, serge all the edges, double check the measurements, and then I'm going to continue with what the pattern says. I have not cut out the collar because I'm just going to wait until I kind of finish the edges and double check the measurements and everything, just to be safe, because our friend, his measurements don't quite match the pattern, and when I printed out the pattern and laid it on the floor, as you saw, things weren't quite coming together as neatly as I'd hoped, but I kind of like roughly threw it on like over my shoulders and gave it a little check, and it seems like it'll be great. So once I get like serging and whatnot, it is super easy, it'll come together. And then I need to decide on like extra special type details if it needs anything, or if it's going to be good as is. That might take some consulting, since it's not mine to wear during the wedding, so we are going to get serging.
One of the first steps I like to do in my projects is to serge all the edges. This just makes sure that nothing is going to fray over time. It provides like a perfect base for everything. And this fabric, it seems like it might fray over time, so that's one of the reasons why I serged. It also is just a fantastic way if you're working with a knit fabric. If you don't have a serger, zigzagging is always what people recommend, and I think that it would work pretty well.
I got all of the edges serged, you can see here. Oh, gotta love the like clean edge that serging does. And this fabric seems to not fray, but when it does start to fray, it goes a little crazy, much like this hair over here. I don't know why that's so ridiculous. But now I'm going to press. Okay. So here is the neckline. I need to press the center front sort of in on itself and then do it again, so that way it's got a nice, neat, you know, instead of raw edges, like if my fingertips are the raw edges, you know, fold it like this and then fold it like this, so that way like all of my fingertips, the raw edges, are encased. If that makes sense, I'm just going to press, and then I need to adjust this sewing machine to a thread that'll work better or use one of the cones. So we are going to do that real quick. Basically, I'm going to do that for the center front and the bottom. It's pretty much identical, and then I need to see about the stand collar. Yeah, that's basically, this is a really simple project. So I don't know if it deserves its own video, or if it's just going to be in a like compilation of all the projects that I've been working on for our wedding.
It's kind of at this point that I got really tired of this project. I have had a lot of things on my mind for the wedding, but this just really hit me right in the mental space. But here we have just pressing the fabric and working away on everything that I told you about. But here it has its own deserved video.
It's the next day, and I had to kind of put things away for the night because I ran out of bobbin. But we are back, and hopefully we can finish the cloak today. I ran out of bobbin doing the final like bottom edge hem, which most of this project is doing hem, but I still need to do the collar and figure out what sort of clasp and extra details, but it is pretty much done. And I actually had to look up the website that I ordered the fabric to figure out which is the correct side. So I had to seam rip a little bit, which you saw, but figured out which is the correct side, and we're working with that. I just need to finish up the details. Switched out this machine. I had a different machine here. Had to swap it out for my sweet little Hello Kitty because it's easier with the cone thread to use this machine. The other one has the thread that kind of is sideways. This one has where it's supposed to be up here anyway. So minor things. You can work around with the thread that has it sideways, but it's a little bit more of a pain just with how the thread like goes through, because I'd have to have the compartment open, have the thread go through the compartment, like the slit here from it being open, and then thread it through. And I've had issues a couple times with that. Nonetheless, got it all sorted out, and yeah, just need to wind a bobbin again. No big deal. I thought one bobbin would be fine, but it's a very large circumference. Big brain words. Without further ado, let's just get right into this project and move on. Get ahead. Whew. So I just altered the collar pattern, kind of giving it the same shape but extending it a little bit because I adjusted the neckline, and I cut it in half, so I need to put this on the fold, and then I will have the collar piece. I need to cut two of them and then interface it. So that'll be the collar, and I guess I'll just do that off camera. So 3, 2, 1. So yesterday I off camera sewed on the clasps for the cloak, and I think it looks pretty good. I just sort of eyeballed where it seemed appropriate, and I ended up using 2, and I got the all good on that from our officiant who is going to be wearing this. And then I started on the trim, which you'll be seeing some of that footage here, and I was hand sewing it on. I sent a picture after I did like a couple, like a little bit, just to kind of like give the idea of what I was doing and going for, like, and asking if that was good, because they initially said that something kind of ornate would be cool. And then I kind of continued on because since it's hand stitching, it's very slow, it's easy to take out. I saw that they had seen the message, and I took them not responding as, yeah, that's probably, you know, what they want. 2 hours later, and they message saying, oh, I didn't see, like, I thought I hit send. What if we don't do that? And 2 hours in, I mean, I got to almost a quarter of the way through just doing this. So I'm going to be taking it out, and what they are requesting instead, I can do on the sewing machine. So 2 hours worth of work that'll be undone in less than 10 minutes for seam ripping. But I think it was looking pretty cute, so I might do this technique on a different project. But let's just forget that I wasted most of yesterday doing a thing that I'll be taking out. So yeah, we are starting with that, but the 2 clasps I think look really good.
And with that, it took actually about 30 minutes to remove all of this trim, but I just worked away, just seam ripping my stitches, and luckily, because hand stitching is a little bit larger, it didn't take as long. And then I finished by just fighting my machine to get this on the edge like I had discussed with our officiant. It worked pretty well at some points, but then there were a couple hiccups. And with all of that, the cloak is done. So I'm actually filming this outro a little bit after I've made it and kind of let the dust settle, because I filmed an outro right then and there and I was very upset, and it just needed some time to kind of calm down. The cloak isn't hard, it's not a hard project, but it was a mentally strenuous process at that time with working on wedding stuff and then feeling like I just needed to get it done, and then it took way longer than I thought it would, because sewing such a long edge is kind of a pain. It just takes a lot of time. And then the trim, I fought my machine the entire way, partly because I don't have the correct presser foot that would make it easier to do the cording. And there's a kind of a noticeable issue on the very front of the cloak because of that, but because it's on the very bottom front corner, I'm leaving it. It just kind of has to be done. I'm tired of it. So with all of that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's not necessarily as comprehensive of a sewing project thing, it's more of a sew with me, but I hope you enjoy this. I hope you flock and squawk again with me sometime. Thank you so much for being you, and have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye!